Hey everyone, and welcome to episode 1 of Master Race Debater Season 3. This is the first one, we're kicking it off. I'm very excited about this. We've been away for a while, but we're back. Like I said, we're back. If you heard the teaser, we're back. You know why we're back. This week, we're going to talk about Bernie Sanders. Is he problematic, or should we just look over all of that shit with B Black? Also, we have a new segment where we review a new movie. Well, no movie, but The Blind Side. It's a new segment where we review The Blind Side. Looking for the white savior bullshit. And our final segment, B Black brings us, is this racist? It's a complicated one, but once you listen to it, you get it. It's pretty interesting. So without further ado, here we go into another exciting episode of Master Race Debaters. Hey, new URL, by the way. We are now at masterracedebaters.com. It's official. So if you want to check us out, masterracedebaters.com. Again, we're back on everything. Stitcher, we're on Pocket Cast, Google Play, iTunes. We're there. Okay, enough plugging. Here we go with the episode, Season 3, Episode 1. Yeah, so it's if you're tuning in, this is a couple of weeks old, probably a month old maybe. I'm not sure when this is going to air, but they just had the midterm elections in the United States. Mm-hmm. They were calling it a blue wave. It was more of a blue trickle.
I heard splash, but yeah, it wasn't a...
But they did take the Congress, right? I'm not sure how. They took the Congress.
They got the House. Yeah,
they got the House, that's right. And they didn't get the Senate, but they did get the House. I don't know if they're still recounting votes. I know Gilliam, he conceded, right?
He conceded, but then someone told him, hey, yo, reverse that concede. There are votes that haven't been counted yet.
Oh, yes. But didn't they find like a box of votes in like a classroom change room? Or a locker room or something, like some school locker room or something like that?
Interesting. I haven't heard that, but I heard about there was a bunch of voting booths, voting machines that were not taken out of the package or like they weren't unwrapped. That could have been used, and that would have reduced some of the lineups that they had to people had to put up with. It's kind of fucked up, man.
Yeah, the whole thing's kind of fucked up, really, when you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
So in the light of that, in regards to who was running in Georgia?
Oh, I nearly said Stacey Adams. Abraham, no.
Stacey. Look how good we are with this podcast. We're doing so much. This is so much research.
Holy shit! Holy fuck, dude! It's Stacey Abrams. Okay,
you were close.
Stacey Adams is a shoe line, is a clothing line, a black clothing line. Yeah,
we are Canadian.
We are Canadian.
In our defense, we're Canadian. So
Yeah, I'm so proud of myself, Stacey Abrams,
and you're French, right? So
exactement.
So it's like
I hate the English language.
Yeah, people are expecting way too much from both of us. From both of us.
Lowered expectation. Yeah.
So Stacey Abrams, they're still counting votes. So anyway, in regards to Stacey Abrams and Gilliam, Bernie Sanders, who campaigned for Gilliam, I believe. I don't know if he campaigned for Abrams. He made a comment in the Daily Beast. He says he did an interview with the Daily Beast in regards to this whole blue trickle, we'll call it.
How difficult is it to be in that position when you have a midterm campaign led from the administration that is so heavily race-oriented and,
why don't we use the right word? Not use the phrase race-oriented. Why don't we say racist? How's that?
Right. How difficult is it then? Is that what ended up with these margins? I
think so. I think that, I was involved, in the Gilliam campaign. I think it was a brilliant campaign. I think he's a fantastic politician in the best sense of the word. I think he ran a great campaign. And he had to take on some of the most blatant and ugly racism that we have seen in many, many years. And yet he came within a whisker of winning. And I think, there are a lot of white folks out there who are not necessarily racist, who felt uncomfortable for the first time in their lives about, whether or not they wanted to vote for an African American. I think next time around, by the way, it will be a lot easier for them to do that.
Yeah, so that's what Bernie Sanders said. And everyone's arguing that, okay, well, he he admit that that there is racism in these places. But the problem with that one quote at the end when he says that white voters, many voters are uncomfortable voting for a black candidate, and I'm chopping the quote up, but they're uncomfortable voting for a black candidate, but they're not necessarily racist. It's does Bernie have a hard time calling people racist?
I see.
Yeah.
I see. Okay. Wow. Hey. I swear I'm making a point here. All right. You seen the season 1 of The Walking Dead?
No, yes, I have seen the season 1. I thought you meant
season 1 of The Walking Dead. Okay, I'm gonna assume everyone else saw it. Spoiler alert! Get ready for it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But the part where Rick realizes, he gets told by the doctor that we're all infected.
Mm-hmm.
We're all. You know what I mean? That's how sometimes I look at racism, man. We're all infected.
Yeah.
By the disease of white supremacy. White people have it. Black people have it. And sometimes I think black people have it the worst. But that's another discussion we can have another time.
Mm-hmm.
So by him saying, he said, white people don't want to vote for, don't feel comfortable voting for a black candidate, but they're not racist.
But yeah, he said many white voters are uncomfortable voting for black candidates, but they're not necessarily racist.
Racist. But maybe that's his way of saying that they don't burn crosses. They they don't they use their bed sheets for their beds, but they don't use it as
but he
outside of
he
Halloween.
literally defined racism in the statement. Like just imagine that statement was many white bosses are just uncomfortable hiring black candidates for a position.
Right.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's
interesting. Okay.
Like that's the very definition of racism when he describes it.
Most definitely.
But then he knows this because every Bernie dude I talk to about this, and I've gotten to arguments. Dudes get mad. White dudes but he's fixing things that affect the black community. I'm like, yeah, I get it, but this is why black people don't trust him, because there's a history of people saying they're going to fix economics, and they never fix economics. We're always left out of it. There's a history of it. You have to understand that black people aren't being fucking stupid. They're just being suspicious. They're being, we're not going to jump in the boat just yet with you.
Yeah.
And he looks like, and Bernie's an old white dude, right? So he looks like the enemy. So but he talks like the enemy too. But yeah, and so I got into many arguments with white dudes like he marched for Dr. Dr. King and blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, yeah, but that's the '60s, dude. It's just like, if I was, sorry, go ahead.
What have you done? What have you done for me lately?
It's like, he wore bell bottoms. Like, you know what I mean? I mean, it's not on that level, but you know what I mean. It's like,
I get it. Yeah. No, Bernie's an interesting character, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've heard, other black people bring up. Okay, I'm gonna assume. Let's pretend that Bernie is the cool guy manipulating it. But his followers are the worst.
They are
the fucking worst. Especially those who said, you know what? I'm voting for Trump because he didn't. Because she's better than. Or because they're pissed at what Hillary did to him. Or some shit like that. There.
Yeah, I know a dude that said that, and I'm like, you really voting for Trump instead of Hillary Clinton? Yeah, fuck her. And I'm like, wow. You're really going to that extreme?
We got those. It's man. This election, this midterm election, has opened my eyes to wow, man. I'm starting to think that Donald Trump is just the dude who knows how to be on top during a moment of chaos, or take advantage of each other's. Okay, so there's the Bernie folks that you're bringing up, that you're talking about. I mean, I was focused on the Tariq Nasheeds of the world who are going around making fun of black people for voting during the midterm elections.
Yeah, well, it's Tariq Nasheed. Like, we need to let him go.
Oh, we need to
push him off. Like, just push him into the ocean. Let him go off.
But one of my friends explained to me, he goes, because he heard me, he upped my outrage, and he said, but something similar to what we're talking about is, a lot of black people are just feel they've been used by the Democrats, and they're like, "Fuck it, we're not playing."
That's
anymore.
my
We're not
point.
participating."
That's my point. But not participating doesn't send a message.
There we go.
Because here's the thing. This is what a lot of progressives are, and I hate when progressives, because they did this with Trump. They let go of black people so quickly, and they start blaming them. Even indirectly blaming them. They start saying things like, well, what about the poor rural voters who were lost jobs? It's always, we worry too. It turns into a conversation of identity politics, and identity politics becomes this pejorative term that people use to like shit on racism and issues that affect people who are minorities. And maybe not in numbers, but in power, they're minorities. People who are underrepresented in the institutions. So the progressives do this all the time, and like I was telling you before we got on air, that people were saying, well, maybe in those areas and they're having serious conversations. Maybe in those areas they should run like the Republicans and think about race, and just run white candidates and not focus on identity politics. Because now those candidates like Gilliam and Abrams are identity politics. Now they're just like the Democratic Party using them. They're not real people,
right.
and the reason those white people didn't vote was because they could see through it and blah blah blah. And it's like, well, wait a second, what the fuck are you talking about? Because so what you're saying is a white husk is better than a black husk, like, because it boils down to racism. What you're doing is you're denying racism, and you don't want to confront that fact because you can't fight that fact. Because if they go, if Bernie Sanders said a lot of white people are uncomfortable voting for black people, and that's racist. How do you fix it? Like, what's your answer to that?
What's the solution? Yeah, right.
How do you fix that problem? Like, if you say, well, they ran these campaigns down there with people who are just neoliberals or like just are centrists, so they need to run like real candidates and not use identity politics. Then you have an excuse. Then you have a solution. It's racism, but it's not racism. It's
racism, but
it's not racism, right?
Let me
just get to your point about what your friend's saying about not voting. This is my thing. I think if the no vote, we saw that with Trump.
Right.
The no vote means nothing. I think because exactly when you're right, when Bernie Sanders makes a comment like people are uncomfortable, like, why do you have to coddle people who are uncomfortable with your skin color? That shouldn't be coddled. But he's a politician, which is also scary. That Bernie is willing to bend to serve some sort of master. So when you instead of like, that says to me that the Democratic Party is used to black vote. They've taken it for granted.
Yeah.
So, but I don't think black shouldn't vote, because that does nothing. I think black should vote for Republicans.
Word? Mm-hmm. You're going with the holy shit, holy fuck. Are you saying I owe Candace Owens an apology?
No, because Candace Owens is a fraud, and I don't mean this as a fraud. I mean, like, if you vote Democratic, you're in the same fucking boat. If you vote Republican, you're in the same fuck. As a black person, you're fucked either way. Like, it didn't get better with Obama.
It didn't get better with Obama.
Right. It didn't get better with Obama. That's why they didn't turn out to vote in the 2016 election.
Right.
And no one cares. Because no one turned out in the 2016 election for and Trump won, right? Trump won, and everyone's like, "Oh, the problem is everyone wants Trump. It's the white people, the poor white people." But because they just go, "Oh, black people voted. The black people that did voted the way they always vote." They take it for granted. If a majority of black people voted for Republicans, people would lose their fucking mind. People would lose their mind. People would go, "What the fuck is going on?" And then the Democratic Party would be like, "Oh, we just lost a chunk of our party.
We just lost a chunk." Okay, yeah. Let's start tap dancing for these people.
Exactly. I mean, it's a long con for sure. It's a long con. But if I was in that country, that's what I would do. That would be my strategy. Fucking get all black people to vote for Republican. Fuck the Democratic Party until they start listening to the demands of black people and stop blaming their fucking shitty, ill-conceived bullshit on us.
Wow. Okay. I'm not there yet. No, I don't. Like, I'm not discrediting what you're saying. Like, I see the logic, and and I hear you and all that. But yeah, I am not there.
Yeah, but B, every time they lose an election, the first thing they do is they blame it on fucking identity politics. And we know what identity politics mean. It's just a pejorative term that white people use to discredit issues of race and issues of gender and issues of sexuality. They do that shit all the time. Like, they're not identity politics. Like, white people don't have identity, but they do that. They go, oh, look at the identity politics. Look at the identity politics.
Right.
And clearly black people's vote is being taken for granted. They're in the same spot. They're in the same spot because, look, the Democratic Party is more worried about flipping Trump voters than they are flipping fucking black people. They're more worried about Trump voters than they are black people.
They're more worried about Trump voters?
Yeah, that's why he didn't call them racist. He didn't call those people racist because they're potential Democratic voters, because he knows that they vote on his stuff. They like what he says with free health care and shit like that. They like that. They're just racist.
Right. He still wants that support.
Right. They're still racist. So they voted for they voted racism lines. Because and if he gets what they want, it doesn't help the black community. It's not like 2 years down the line, fucking Andrew Gilliam's going to run again, and they're going to go, you know what? I voted for Bernie Sanders, so clearly I'm not a racist anymore, so I'll vote for black people. They're not going to change.
Right.
They're going to be the same motherfuckers. So what you have to do in the Democratic Party, you know how weak they are. They're going to make a shift. You're going to see less black people going out. You're going to see less black and more white candidates going out and doing shit. I promise you.
That's wild, man. Okay. Let's see if this takes a different direction here. But something you said earlier, you said you asked the question. You said, or Bernie asked the question. What did he say? He said, how do you fix racism? No, how do you? Oh man, I should have written this shit down. You're talking about Bernie. Bernie said that white people
are uncomfortable
voting for black people, and I think was the question, how do you fix that? Or
it was like, how do you fix that? How do you if what I'm saying is if Bernie came out and said white people are uncomfortable voting for black,
so send white people in the areas where we know they're not going to vote for black people. Fuck the principles.
Just say they're
We're
racist.
Trying to win this
Call
shit.
them for what they are. How do you fix it as a party?
How do you fix that? See, that's holy shit. Okay, so I was thinking, the thought that triggered through my mind is the whole, how do you defeat a monster without becoming the monster?
Yeah.
And strategically, I'm saying, okay, look, hey man, black people don't have a chance in that fucking area. Send in the white dude.
Hey, let me ask you a question. How come
play the racism card?
How come gerrymandering's only a problem when the election comes up? How come voter suppression's only a problem when the elections come up? Where are these Democrats who want the black vote? Why are they fighting to protect the black vote?
What aren't they fighting?
Yeah, why aren't they for the fucking whole time they're in office? How come they don't do that regularly? Fight to protect the black vote.
That's a good question. It's
only an issue when it's voting time.
I need a political strategist on this one here.
Well,
it's only an issue when it's vote. Yeah, like the caravan.
Right. It's only an issue when they need them. Because they know the vote's there no matter what. And then when the political time comes, they barely lift a finger for it, but they try to do something. The new Boston State Representative Nikita Elgardo, I'm going to Elugardo. She's a Democrat, and she said she called it the Democrats were being straight up racist. The panel, which included other elected officials of all of them black women, was hosted by WGBH as part of their basic black program reports, Boston.com. Not mincing words, 0 words, Elgato told host Kelly Crossley what needs to be said in a straightforward way is that the Democratic Party is straight up racist. This is one of the leaders in the Democratic Party. She said the structural racism that we were talking about dismantling is in the party. And this is one of the reasons why it's frustrating to be standing on a stage at a Democratic Party behind speeches being made about Republicans dividing the country. Here's the thing. You have a 30-minute speech. 30% of it is bashing people. 30% of it is talking about why we're unifiers. And then the rest is rhetoric with a couple of sentences thrown in. I can actually clap for her legitimately, she added. They know it. In their own party, they know it. It's just that they only have two options.
They only have to... Yeah. I think I had someone accuse me, a black conservative accuse me of, dick riding the Democratic Party. Sorry, back to Canada. Dick riding the Liberals. I don't know if we need to define what dick riding means.
It's it's pretty easy. It's riding.
I'm being overzealous, so I love them. I have blind faith.
Yeah, swinging your cowboy hat in the air while you're just riding a dick.
They can do no wrong. And I wanted to respond to him. No, it's as a black person, my choices are the one party that's calling me nigger and the other party that sees the benefit to my vote. You know what I mean? While calling me nigger. You know what I mean? I don't
exactly. This is why my theoretical bullshit is theoretical. Because even as I'm talking to you, I'm like, well, they're kidnapping kids and shit. Like, what the they're fucking locking kids up in concentration camps.
You know what I mean? It's like I make no this politics game is what we have. My motto was, look, if you're not about the ballot, then you better be about the bullet. Now I'm not gangster enough to be about the bullet, so I'm voting. You know what I mean? That's all I got. I'm showing up to the that's what the man is letting me have. Okay, I'm gonna let you decide who do you think should be in charge, even though they're not really gonna be in charge. But who do you think? You know what I mean? That's what voting's about for me.
I'm so not gangster. I early vote. That's how not gangster I am. All right, so this is our new segment. We're calling "Fuck Hollywood," right?
Fuck
We're
Hollywood.
going with that.
Yeah.
Fuck Hollywood.
Or burn
So
Hollywood.
basically, I decided to. I want to do like a movie review this season, where we look at movies that have problematic to basically movies that explain racism for white people. It's like a racism movies for white people, and so we're taking movies that have tropes, that have classic tropes in it. And this week we decided to do a classic movie.
It's a classic.
Well, it's a classic explaining white racism to white people.
Gotcha.
It's The Blind Side.
Yes.
And The Blind Side, it has the white savior trope in it.
Yep.
The white savior is a cinematic trope in which a white character rescues a people of color from their plight. Certain critics have observed this narrative in an array of genres of films in American cinema, wherein a white protagonist is portrayed as a Masonic figure who often learns something about him or herself in the course of rescuing characters of color. Which that's The Blind Side, 100%. Yeah, it's 100% The Blind Side.
Yeah.
So I'll do a little plot summary. The Blind Side is a 2009 American biographical sports drama film written and directed by John Lee Hancock, based on the 2006 book The Blind Side: Evolution of the Game by Michael Lewis. It stars Quentin Aaron as Michael Orr, alongside Sandra Bullock as Lee Ann Toohey, Tim McGraw as Sean Toohey, and Kathy Bates as Miss Sue, Orr's tutor. The film also features appearances by several current and former NCAA coaches, including Houston Nutt and Ed Organ.
A bunch of people I don't know. Oh,
so basically, no, I don't know who this movie's for. But okay, so basically what happens is Michael Orr, our big black Negro friend that he's just so big, and they call him Big Michael.
Big Mike. That's actually Big Mike, and he doesn't like being called Big Mike.
He doesn't like being called Big Michael, but he's Big Mike, yes. He doesn't like being called Big Mike. He's basically an orphan when we find him in the movie. He's staying on some dude's couch, but we hear a black woman the first black woman in the movie kicks him, he can't stay in his fucking house, that kind of shit. She doesn't swear, which I find weird too. That you're kicking a kid out of your house, you're not swearing.
Yeah,
come on, like that's. So he kicks her out of the house, and so he's like living homeless. He's going to the school. The man got him into this school because they saw the size of this guy, and they're like, oh my god, look at him with a ball.
Yeah.
And so the school's like, hey, let's bring him in. His grades are bad, so they bring him into this Christian school, but he's homeless.
Yep.
And then Sandra Bullock's character happens to find him one night with his family walking in the rain. Of course.
Oh yeah, the fucking black drug. Hollywood to its finest. Yeah.
Yeah, and not walking in the rain like Orange Juice Jones. Walking in the rain like Charlie Brown. Yeah.
Like Charlie.
just sad and mopey, shirt soaked. And so they take him home, and then eventually, white in her whiteness, she basically adopts him, going to his mother, and she's like, she's a crackhead. She's had 12 kids, right? And so then he's the ghetto is the worst place in the world. You can never go there. Like it looks like The Walking Dead, which is weird because T-Dog from The Walking Dead's in it. So he's in it. He plays the thug, which really pulled me out of it.
I know, right? Oh fuck! Yeah, I hate his role.
Yeah, fuck. He has bad roles. But,
he has bad roles, man.
Dude's got to eat.
Dude's got to eat. Yeah,
dude's got to eat. So eventually he's like. They get him into football, right? They get him into football. I don't even know if he wants to play football. They just kind of just like, hey, we're gonna start putting you in football. You can go out for practice. I thought it was gonna be like a moment where they go, oh, you know what? I don't want to play football, but that never happened. So they get him into football. They teach him how to play football.
Yeah.
And then she's like, he's not good. But then she's like, she does this thing where she tells them, the coach, hey, she's like, let me deal with it. And then she goes over and is like, okay, Michael, pretend these are all your family. This is me, blah, blah, blah. Your team's your family, so just protect your family. And then he becomes an amazing football player and starts destroying people.
Start destroying people. Oh,
the first game, some white dude, racist white. You assumed racist. He's not racist. He's assumed racist.
Yeah, he used to call the boy. He said, woo, you're in my field, boy.
Yeah, he's on your. Look at that big black gorilla. Someone said that. Someone actually said that's a quote from the movie. They use monkey a lot in this, and so anyway, so he beats him up, and then all these recruiters from that one game, all these recruiters from all over come and talk to him. So he has to decide where he's going. He decides to go to but they have to get his GPA average up. So that's the other problem. So they get his GPA average up. He decides to go to UMass, and then the NCAA. They are like, oh, well, Leanne Tui and her husband and the tutor all went to UMass. Right. How come you picked UMass? This is the problem. They donate money. So this seems like you're scamming. And then eventually, so then the problem at this point is he comes out and he's like, oh, well, you didn't really care about me. And she's like, oh, blah, blah, blah. In those moments, they have to extend it. So she can't say, well, I did. So he goes back to the hood and he gets into a John Wick fight with T-Dog. Pulls a gun on him.
And
right, exactly. You see him holding a bottle of liquor and you're like, oh my God, he looks like a baby. He looks like he shouldn't be holding a malt liquor. He just looks like a baby because he's so small and like soft in this movie. And and almost stupid, just stupid. He's not magical Negro, but he's almost magical Negro, which is another trope.
Green Mile, big dumb nigga.
Yeah, he's almost magical Negro.
Yes, you're right.
He's just they keep comparing him to Ferdinand the Bull in this movie, which is like fuck. Ferdinand the Bull is this storybook from a long time ago about this giant bull.
Okay.
Who is very gentle. He doesn't want to fight.
Okay.
So then eventually it all works out. Of course, he goes to school. He sees white women. They're like, oh, don't get. She did this weird thing. She said, I forgot about this. She said this weird thing when she's looking at the women. She's like, if you get a woman pregnant, I'm gonna come out and cut your dick off. And I'm like, lady, that's a fucking lynching thing. I don't know if you want to be cutting. You're in the South. You're talking about cutting dudes' dicks, black men's dicks off. Anyway.
yeah. This
So
movie
anyway,
triggered my PTSDs too. Keep going. Yeah.
So eventually he gets to the NFL, blah blah blah, was recruited, and it's loosely based on a true story of Michael Orr, who recently got into an altercation with an Uber driver. But anyway, yeah. So it's online. He got into a fight with. He came out of the book and he said it was fine. But anyway, he said he wasn't trying to correct anything in the movie. So basically, that's the movie. It's about the white lady getting this guy to play football.
Yeah. Saves him from the hood.
Yeah, go ahead.
Saves him from the hood, and he. What's that Biggie line? Either you sell a crack rock or you got a wicked jump shot. But in this case, he plays football.
He can play basketball too, because that's how they saw him playing basketball.
That's right. He can also play basketball. Anyway, he's an athletic dude, and that's with the help of these white people, it puts him in the NFL. Go capitalism.
Yeah, it is very capitalism. It's very the thing, because we had to re-record this because my thing fucked up. But the thing that really bothered me in this movie was like when she goes to the black people in this movie are just shitty or pathetic.
They're the worst. The black people are in there. Hold on, is that a good black person? They're the bad guys. They're the gang members. Hey, by the way, that gang member scene didn't happen. I was reading this piece about the true story behind it. But that gang member scene, they never harassed Sandra Bullock's character. But
it didn't happen.
But yeah.
Are you serious? You mean he didn't fight off 4 fucking gangbangers?
No. The part where they harass, when she's in the car.
And they're like, look at that sweet ass bitch.
Hey, Snowflake. They kept calling her Snowflake. You know what I mean?
Yeah. and she did this other, because in this movie they do this thing where they there's overt quote unquote racism, but it's racism that white people can handle, right? It's like
it's a feel good movie for white people. That's
hang on. So she's it's a feel good movie for white people. So she's having dinner with her or lunch with her friends, and they have these expensive lunches, and they're like, oh my god, you're like King. He's like King Kong, and you're like Jane, and she's like brushing it off, and then she's like, don't talk about my son like that, and they're like, are you serious? You can't. What would your father say? So it's like they have that race. It's racism, but it's okay, it's polite racism. And then there's but the racism that bothered me is when she goes back looking for Michael Orr, when she goes back looking for Big Michael, Big Mike, he and the T-Dog guy is like, hey, and he calls her a bitch, and she's like, nobody calls me a bitch. She does that moment, record scratch, and she comes back and she threatens him. With the DA. She's like, I have lunch with the DA and I keep a gun in my purse.
Right. Exactly. Call the cops on him.
Yeah.
You hear me in there? You know what I mean?
It's on the line of it touches this movie wades into systemic racism, but it's it's not aware of it. Do you know what I mean?
The whole docile Negro thing. You know where that's from?
What?
During slavery, mothers were actually teaching their boys, they were beating their aggressiveness out of their boys. You cannot be any threat to the slave master. Anything, and you make them nervous for a second, you're gone. So
thank God that's changed. Huh?
So you know what I mean? So mothers were raising their boys to be like, yo, fucking don't make eye contact and say yes sir, mess sir. But they would, the bigger you are, the more they would beat out the aggressiveness. Any sign of aggressiveness.
It's so good that's changed.
So that's what it kept reminding me of.
In a world that's
you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, all of that. It didn't address that fact. Her going into the hood, and the hood looks like fucking, like I said, the T-Dog from The Walking Dead's in it, and it looked like the cars were smashing.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Everything's dilapidated. Everybody's on crack. Everybody is on crack, and if you're not on crack, you have a gun. You're ready to kill people. So they go to the Big and Tall store, which is in a black neighborhood. I wouldn't even say it's the ghetto. It's a black neighborhood. And she's like, while they're walking to the store, she's like, you're going to get my back. And it's supposed to be like a heartfelt moments. Like, well, bitch, why are you scared? What are you scared of?
She's from the suburbs. She's rich, you know.
Yeah. Oh, she's super rich because her husband owns like 14 Taco Bells.
Yeah.
14 Taco Bells, and it's like she knows all these all these people in the. You can't give someone a job, and and they touch on things like, what do you do with that food? We throw it out. Maybe we should look into doing something with that food, and that's the end of that conversation.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
Every, like I said, every black person and the black women in this movie are portrayed as shit.
Oh man, yo, shout out to Sharon Conley. She looked hot in that movie, man. Even though she started out being like they put her as the bad person, but
she was the protagonist in this. One of the antagonists in this movie.
I like.
She was the NCAA. Like she was investigating why he would play for UMass.
Exactly. She wants to make sure that exactly. They didn't farm this dude. What's the word I'm looking for? They breeded him to play for you. Oh, wait. Quick correction. You've been saying UMass. It's Ole Miss.
Whatever. Who gives a fuck? I don't watch that fucking shit.
You know what I mean? I look Yankee to you. All right.
Ole Miss.
But before we get into likes and hates, I want to know, out of the 53% of the white women who voted for Trump, how many of them see themselves as fucking Sandra Bullock? Like, because that's what that movie's for. It's for people like them.
98% of them.
To feel good about themselves. You know what I mean? I'm for Negroes, but fuck that. I'm voting for Trump. Fuck that shit.
Yeah, I'm a good person.
You have to see this movie.
I'm a good person.
Yo,
but wait a second. Before we get into it, this is the saddest part about this movie. You and I rented this movie. We had and you were telling me, what was the Hotep guys watching this movie?
So they told me that they saw the movie. How the fuck did they see the movie? By the way,
because that's their fucking guilty pleasures, watching fucking.
You know what I mean? They said
watching these kind of like, it's like how I watch Hallmark movies. This is their Hallmark holiday movies. This is their Hallmark holiday movie. It's watching shit like The Blind Side and fucking Green Mile.
Or movies that they don't admit. But yeah, they said that, the brother didn't like his portrayal because they made him look weak. But turns out he actually didn't like the movie because of how it affected him on the field. Like it was a distraction for. It's like
I heard that.
Basically, he was saying, buy the book, buy my book instead. You know what I mean?
He was saying how it hurt him as a player.
Exactly,
Michael Orr. When we recorded this before, I was saying that like when the Hoteps are watching this movie, it's like 120 minutes, but it extends to 9 hours because every 3 seconds they have to stop the movie and do some sort of speech about like fucking racism and shit.
Bro, I'm losing points on my black card talking about this. The fact that admitting that I watched this movie and paid for it, not paid. Paid to rent it, all right?
We both did. We couldn't find it. No one wanted to steal this movie for us. Okay, so go into your 3 hates and your 3 likes.
Okay, we're starting with the hates or the likes?
Start with your 3 likes. Okay. We have to go with, because we've been shitting on it the whole time.
Exactly. Okay, so likes, all right? So one, my parents would love the shit out of this movie, especially the Christian theme.
It has a lot of. It's very heavy Christian.
Oh yeah. No, we need to watch the French version. Problem is, it would just reinforce the idea of, you see, white people are better than us. You know what I mean? And that's unfair.
This is evidence.
That's unfair. Like, my parents don't talk like that, but they do worship a white Jesus. Anyways, 2 gave.
Not their fault.
What's that?
I said not their fault.
Not their fault. Right. 2 gave T-Dog a job. Yes. T-Dog and the other chick from The Fear of the Walking Dead. I actually like her.
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah. I like seeing her in movies. I like seeing, and this is street cred and black card being loose, but I actually like seeing Sandra Bullock in movies.
There's something attractive about her in this movie, but not in a good way. Like, does that make sense?
Not in a good way. I liked her character. I'm like, she was peak white woman. Like,
she's peak white woman. White women find her funny, and white women want to buy her Hallmark cards that she makes at home.
Bro, the only thing missing in the movie was not one point was there like Ugg boots or pumpkin spice latte or some shit like that.
No, she's kind of older than that. So what was your hate?
And my revelation is it made me realize that white people like to watch movies, like to fantasize about being the good person. But I'm not dissing him for that because I also like to listen to gangster rap and fantasize being a bad person. You know what I mean? Not doing bad things, but being respected for being a bad person. So I'm not mad at you for that, right? So that's the like. So I'm relating to white people who love this movie and just don't bring it here. All right, hates. Or we jump to the hates?
Yeah,
okay.
Go into your hates, but we gotta go quick because I got like two and a half.
Triggered all my PTSDs, like my hope tetanus came out. And don't get me started on the Christian theme. The white savior theme bothered me. The docile Negro, just kept reminding me of slavery, where that comes from. The gang members harassing scene never happened in real life, so thank you for reinforcing that stereotype. And the fact I had to pay for it. There.
Well, okay, so Sandra Bullock, the Portuguese side of me, I got a bit misty-eyed in moments.
Hilarious.
There's moments I was like, oh.
Hilarious.
But I calmed myself very quickly.
Can I say I watched this movie high, and that's why I was seduced by Sandra Bullock and had those moments too. I just want to, on the record.
Thank you. So these are my likes. I'm getting into my likes. T-Dog is working.
Yes.
That's great.
Yes,
Good for you.
Good for you.
I did like watching him beat up the racist football kid, but at the same time, it's like that was set up for me to like. It's pro wrestling.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
My hate is like the blatant, like systemic racism that they overlooked, or like the capitalism, like the idea, like it's this idea like they're just poor and shit is bad, and like at the end of the movie they talk about like his friend gets shot, but they show a newspaper clipping it's like it's in a vacuum, like it doesn't exist, like there's no historical shit. She owns like 18 whatever with Taco Bell's, and it's like, oh yeah, well it's just like, oh well, I'm white and I have it better than black people. It's like, no, there's a historical context to it, bitch. You only have that because you owned people. People owned people, and that's how you got to this point,
bro.
So
it's
it's white people racism where they brush over this shit.
Oh yeah.
They just and so I didn't like that. What else? I also didn't like the performative racism, like when when the girl goes over and starts talking to him when they're studying, and I'm like, you need a medal for that? Like, he's staying in your house. He's gonna make you more rich, because he's gonna be fucking playing in the NFL. The whole thing felt like they did this whole thing where they're like, oh well, did he want to play or did they force him in? I'm like, and she does this moment where she's like, I didn't even ask you if you wanted to play football, but it's like it's a dropped moment. It's just. She's like, I didn't even ask you, but then they move on to, where do you want to play? He didn't even answer the question. We don't even know if he wanted to play football.
Hey, what's your rating?
I'm 7 seconds. Oh, what's my rating? I'll give it 2 fingers up.
2 fingers. I give it one middle finger, man.
We don't even know what it's out of.
Two. We got 2 middle fingers. I'm giving it 1 middle finger.
No, you give it 1 middle finger. All right. Well, that's this segment. We fuck Hollywood and we fuck them
Hollywood.
twice.
Hey, I hope you guys are enjoying this episode. If you are, do me a favor. Go to iTunes right now. Leave a comment. Leave a rating. It'll help us out so much. Hey, also, if you want to follow us on social media, that'd be great. You can follow us on Twitter at MRD Podcast, on Facebook at Master Race Debaters, and on Instagram at MRD Podcast. We're also on YouTube. If you got comments and suggestions, or just want to drop us and say, hey, fuck you guys, you can email us at masterrdpodcast@gmail.com. Yes, we'll take your emails. We'll respond. Trust me. We got nothing better to do. Anyway, here we go. Without further ado, me and B Black getting back into it.
So I was thinking here, I've been noticing a pattern when we call people, when someone does, when a white, I'm going to say, someone does something racist and you call them on it, how the other person can get away with it or could deny it by plausible deniability, by simply saying, no, I'm not racist.
Yeah.
Or no, that wasn't racist. He claims it wasn't racist. That's like, niggers. No, that wasn't racist.
Well, that's not racist. That's not racist. Yeah.
So I find myself analyzing that shit, things I do when I'm high, right?
Mm.
And I look for a specific example, and I want to go with Ron DeSantis.
Okay.
Ron DeSantis versus Andrew Gillum.
He's governor of Florida right now, right? This was the run-up election between Ron DeSantis and Gillum for the governorship of Florida.
Yes.
Just want to set the table. That's all.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Yeah, I'm like, shit, I should have got some background information on that one, right? Before I start, wouldn't it be beautiful if we lived in a world where if you called someone racist or told them they were doing something racist, they took time to analyze it?
Oh,
Wouldn't that be
fuck.
beautiful? Can you imagine that?
We have to live in a world with adults.
We gotta.
We don't.
So I found like in this tactic that they use, right? So like Ron DeSantis was in a situation where he's very defensive when you call him racist.
Of course.
Right?
On live TV in August, on the first day of the general election campaign, you said of Andrew Gillum's run for governor, quote, "The last thing we need to do is to monkey this up by embracing a socialist agenda." Fox News quickly disavowed your words, saying, quote, "They do not condone the language." Now, you called some of this response absurd. You've made appearances at 4 of David Horowitz's Freedom Center events. Again, 4 separate times, 4 speeches. Among some of Mr. Horowitz's statements, quoting here, "This country's only serious race war is against whites." You know, and I'll ask the questions.
Okay.
It's not a McCarthy game, and I'm giving it. Wait for the question,
okay.
sir.
Okay.
He also said, if blacks are oppressed in America, why isn't there a black exodus? Now, in 2015, in your speech before the Freedom Center, you said of Mr. Horowitz, "David has done such a great work, and I've been an admirer. I've been to these conferences in the past, and I've been a big admirer of an organization that shoots straight, tells the American people the truth, and is standing up for the right thing." Those are his words. Here's my question.
He had not even made those statements then.
Yes, he had, sir. The first statement was made many years ago.
I mean, how the hell am I
2003.
supposed to know every single statement somebody makes? Here's the deal. Let me just say this straight up. I've lived my life, whether it's athletics, whether it's military, whether it's serving as a prosecutor. When I was downrange in Iraq, we worked together as a team regardless of race. We had the American flag on our arm. We wore the same uniform, and we fought for the country. When I was a prosecutor, I stood up for victims of every race, color, and creed. That's the only way to do it in our country. It's something I believe in, and as governor, I will represent all the people. Everyone will get a fair shake. But I am not going to bow down to the altar of political correctness. I'm going to not let the media smear me like they like to do with so many other people.
Sir,
and I'm certainly not going to take
there.
anything from Andrew Gillum, who's endorsed the Dream Defenders, which says Israel is an apartheid state, and which says the police and prisons have no place in justice.
Mr. Gillum, wait for the applause and go. And Mr. DeSantis, I'll point out, I wish you would have waited for the question, because I had a question and it's not what you think it is. Mr. Gillum, I'll give you a chance to respond now.
Well, let me first say, my grandmother used to say, "A hit dog will holler," and it hollered through this room.
Dude, do you want to explain the phrase "a hit dog will holler"?
A hit dog. Well, basically is they hit him with racism, and he responds like, "Yeah, dog, no, I'm not." Like he responds with, he gets defensive about it, as opposed to, "Oh shit, you know what?"
It's like if the saying is like an old saying where if like you throw a rock at a pack of dogs, the hit dog, the one that gets hit, will holler. And so like if you say racism, the one that's fucking racist will fucking be offended by it or say or be vocal about it.
It will be vocal about it, right? And it's gotten to the point that DeSantis has me questioning, like, fuck, maybe he's not a racist, right? And Andrew Gillum did it so well in a debate, right? He said, look, he gave him facts. He listed, you hang out with these people. You let someone call Obama the N-word, blah, 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 blah. Look, I don't know if you are racist, but racist people consider you a homeboy, you know? So you consider, like, that's something worth analyzing. It's like saying, you know what I mean? I don't know if you're an alcoholic, but your breath stinks like fucking Mosum highlight. You know what I mean? Like, check yourself. You know what I mean? Do some analyze. I'm not making this shit up. I'm not trying to be an asshole.
You see how the gaslighting has got you questioning, like, fucking...
Bro, it's got...
Because...
So there's this...
Sorry,
there's
go
this
ahead.
saying I have to read for everyone, you know, and it's a common saying, or I'm sure you've heard it before. He goes, the problem with the world is that the intelligent people are full of doubts, while the stupid ones are full of confidence.
Oh, fuck. Yeah, it's a Dunning-Kruger effect.
What's that?
It's Dunning-Kruger effect. It's fucking idiots who think they're experts at shit, but fucking they don't know how bad they are at what they do.
So the I'm not racist, folks. They're full of confidence. I'm not the racist. You're the one, and they do shit like, okay, so the strategy seems to be like this, right? Okay? One, get yourself a crew of people who believe whatever the fuck you say, so that when they call you racist, they'll be in the background and be like, boo!
Yeah.
And you're questioning yourself like, wow, why are these people yelling at me, right? Two, don't let him finish their sentence.
No.
Like, keep cutting them off, right?
Reframe it.
Reframe it, okay? And what's the other word? Yeah, reframe it and use shit like call them a victim and things like that. Here, let's try this, right? Okay, we're gonna put
Straw man and reframe.
You're gonna call me a racist, right?
You're racist.
Gavin, stick to the topic, all right?
No,
saying the same shit.
You're racist.
See, now you're playing the victim here.
I'm not a victim. I'm just pointing out facts that you're racist.
Okay, don't you hang out with a dude named B Black? He said a lot of racist, fucked up shit about white people. Okay, so that by comparison makes you a racist. So see what I just did there, right? I think didn't you read the autobiography of Malcolm X? There's a lot of racist shit in that book. White man's the devil. What the fuck? You know what I mean?
Well, look at Don Lemon got in trouble for saying that white men caused most of the mass shootings based on facts.
There's this. Did I close it? Anyway, there's this piece that I'll read it after, and maybe we'll make a segment about it, right? But it just talks about how white people don't like, white Americans don't like being called white.
No, they're not used to it. They're the default. But like getting back to because even saying white is racist, right? This is the problem. This is the Dunning-Kruger effect. Like white people, for the most part, the white people that I've run into, that I get into these debates with over race, shouldn't have an opinion. Because they don't know anything. Like I was just in a debate with a guy today who's telling me, like you said, he's saying, "Oh, you're a victim." I'm like, I never said I was a victim. I'm just pointing out police stats and blah blah blah, and how this person's arguing without nuance. And he's like, "Oh, you think you're a victim?" I'm like, but now you're just arguing a straw man. You just created a character that doesn't exist. And I asked him if he knows anything about redlining. He doesn't know what that term is. If you don't here's my problem. Like Jordan Peterson did that in the debate. It's like even if you don't have to agree with the term or the idea of say white privilege. Let's use that. You don't have to agree with it if it exists or not, but at least understand the term.
At least understand it. Well, no. If he takes the time to understand it,
right,
then you might be right later.
Exactly. That's the thing. It's so they you're debating like that's the thing is like. We're in a world, we're in a society where it's like it's white narcissism. It's just like it's a whole bunch of fucking narcissists gaslighting and saying, and so like it's pointless. It's almost hopeless because as soon as fucking Ron DeSantis says, "Oh, it's not racist," then the networks go into a debate about it.
Wait, hold on a second, because black people have this habit of
let's get experts on the other side it's always a white dude, and they conflate this argument that doesn't exist. It is. Yeah. You can go back into history and see it is, and then they start bringing out straw men. You're being offended. You're playing a victim. It's like, well, you don't have to be offended or a victim to point out a thing. Like I'm not a victim when I go. There's keys in front of me. I go, those are my keys. It doesn't make me a victim or offended. It's just a thing. It's very frustrating and it's time consuming, but it's
two things. How much time do we have left?
We're at 8 minutes.
8 minutes. Okay. So two things, right? One, in everything you were saying, you pretty much described the behavior of the stupid person full of confidence.
Yes, Dunning-Kruger.
It's so consistent with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Two, I'm thinking of an art of war principle. A friend of mine, I had to explain to him.
Yeah.
It's like if you're gonna fight Jordan, if you're gonna try to beat Jordan, don't fucking beat him on the court.
Yes.
Beat him on stage. You know what I mean? Yeah, I bet I can do stand up better than you.
Yes.
Like that. Whatever,
it's
right?
reframe the debate.
Reframe the debate. So it's like it's kind of like if I'm trying to argue with someone about the Pythagoras theory.
Yeah.
Le théorème de Pythagore. Sorry, I know it in French. The Pythagoras theory, right? Okay. Now, I'm like, no, fuck that, man. There ain't no such thing as a square. Fuck you and your triangle, man. Stick to additions. Like, you know what I mean? Like, basically, you fix it so that let's stick to addition and subtractions. If we go into
Also-
power of whatever, I'm fucked.
Yeah. Also, you're trying to exhaust the other person, so the other person just gives up.
Yeah, I get. Yeah.
If I stop talking, then I lose because but I just keep talking, Like Sandra Battellini, who's a part of the CAS, the Ontario or the Canadian Comedy Association.
Yes,
they put an article in the Globe and Mail. It was supposed to be about CAS, but they started getting to like bullshit about comedy. It was like this old hacky stuff, and it's like. This is the other problem about racism, along with status quo. Anything status quo is there's a media machine that relies on status quo. So like they can't write about, hey, let's reform a thing when this guy makes money talking about, hey, what's it like being a woman on the road, or like conflating arguments in the comedy community, which is like garbage. Like it doesn't make any sense. So they couldn't. Long story short, I was watching this clip on was it Dr. Phil? It was a Dr. Phil clip on YouTube. I don't normally watch Dr. Phil, but this one was about white privilege. And they had these two white women on who said that white privilege isn't a thing, and in fact that Black Lives Matter, they need to shut up, and in fact that black people have more privilege than white people. And they're just the standard talking points, right? Like just ignorance, just fucking people living in their own, and how black people, why don't they work harder? While she's on a ranch, I have this, I worked hard, so I don't know, whatever. So I have nothing to do with slavery. All the talking points. So then they had them on the show, and they had like a woman who was a PhD, Alonzo Bowden, a comedian, like a renowned comedian, was on there. Like people who are very smart and ahead in their field, who are ethnic. Debate, like saying to this, you don't understand. I like just trying to convince them that white privilege exists, and I'm like, right. Motherfucker, this is an entire show, a multi-million-dollar show dedicated to convincing these white bitches that white privilege exists. Like the whole thing is fucking white privilege. Like the idea that your comfort. This woman's like, well, I don't know why I have to feel uncomfortable. Your comfort's more important than a real issue like fucking police brutality. Like this is what we're wasting energy on, making sure we can talk about police brutality so you can feel comfortable about it. It's like even the media doesn't give a fuck about the real issue or talking. They'll coddle these fucking goddamn childish Dunning-Kruger narcissist fucks before they actually deal with real issues.
Hey, white man's world.
Exactly. So even so like when you're talking about like fucking Gillum and what's his name,
Ron DeSantis,
they're gonna make sure DeSantis is going to that talking point is going to be washed away and make it look like a political issue and not a human rights issue. Because that's what they're designed for.
Imagine instead of racist, right? We had this basically pedophiles control the world like white people, right?
They do. They do.
You know what I mean? You're a pedophile. Whoa! Why are you playing the victim here?
How dare you?
You know what I mean?
Maybe you're the pedophile for pointing out that I'm a pedophile.
You know what I mean? It's like they get like pedophiles are jealous. Like fuck, I wish we could deflect pedophilia like racist.
Yeah,
deflect racism.
Same with axe murderers. Same thing. Same group. They're like, oh, if I could just deflect axe murdering off of me. The fucking. Sorry, go ahead.
Real quick, I'm just so this quote that I read recently by Alexandra
Ocasio-Cortez.
That's why you're on the show. Thank you. Yes, Ocasio-Cortez. She goes, ultimately, feminism is about women choosing the destiny that they want for themselves. Mm-hmm. And what's beautiful about that quote is I remember being younger and thinking that feminism was just about replacing one tyrant with another tyrant.
Yeah.
Right? And
because that's your framing of your mind. Like I was the same way.
So I'm wondering,
they want more rights.
Yeah, I wonder if there's a white person who's like, we just want to be in control of our own destiny, like we were before slavery. You know? We just want to restore back to that. But for them, you just want to replace one tyrant with another one. Yeah. We're gonna be your niggers. We're gonna have to get your coffee. We're the ones gonna have to suffer police brutality.
Yeah.
And shit like that. We might be your slaves.
Because that's how a narcissist fucking thinks, right? Like that's Like B, you say it all the time that we have. Whenever they say we have to get over slavery, they need to get over slavery too. They have an ownership mentality. Dude, when you say that shit sinks in my head. Like, oh yeah, that makes so much sense.
Holy shit! That's why for them it's worse to be perceived as being racist than actually being racist.
Well, they conflate it like it's being called the N-word. I've heard people say that. Oh, it's like being called the N-word. Really? You have a history of this shit? You have a history of it.
Holy shit! Yeah, man. It's like fuck. Check yourself, Q.
All right, man. Do you want to call it on that, or what do you think?
Yeah.
All right.
That's everything. Yeah.
That was a good segment. I enjoyed that. All right.